Tonight, a new federal civil lawsuit is putting a spotlight not just on a former teacher convicted of child sex crimes, but on the school system that seemingly allowed him access to the students in the first place. Two teenage girls said that when they were just 13 years old, Winston Nguyen, a math teacher at St. Anne's School in Brooklyn, posed as a teenage boy online and pressured them into sharing naked photos and videos. Prosecutors say Mr. Nguyen, who's, by the way, smart enough to be on Jeopardy once, communicated with at least 6 children on Snapchat from elite private schools in the area, and that his messages became increasingly explicit. According to the complaint, when the girls cut off contact, Mr. Nguyen retaliated by sharing the sexually explicit content that they had sent him with other students. And the lawsuit alleges that when those images were released, St. Anne's, that school, did nothing to help the children, that they didn't even mitigate the harm, that they didn't even report the matter to police. And that suit further claims that school leaders at St. Anne's, where, by the way, annual tuition is about $63,000, they failed to even properly vet Mr. Nguyen. Do you know why I say that? Despite knowing he had previously served time at Rikers for stealing $300,000 from an elderly handicapped couple while he was working as a home aide, they hired him. Now, the two girls say that they have suffered unfathomable trauma as a result of Mr. Nguyen's actions, that they are terrified that the images will resurface and be used against them later on in life. Now, the civil case named St. Anne's School, several school administrators, and this teacher, Winston Nguyen, all as defendants. And to be clear, this civil lawsuit comes a year and a half after these two girls, not the school, reported Mr. Nguyen to police, leading to his arrest outside of St. Anne's School in June of 2024. And it comes months after Mr. Nguyen had pled guilty to a felony charge of using a child in a sexual performance along with 5 misdemeanors. He's now serving a 7-year federal prison sentence. St. Anne's denies the allegation, saying the complaint contains misrepresentations, that they're going to fight them in court. But I'm joined right now by a special guest, Frank Rothman, the attorney who represented Winston Nguyen in that criminal case. It's no longer his current attorney. Thank you so much for taking the time. Do you think there's anything to this lawsuit you think it has merit?
I think St. Anne's is going to have a lot of explaining to do. As you said, they kind of overlooked or didn't vet him properly. And, you know, there were some red flags in his background, to say the least. And the fact that they chose to hire him and put him in a position of trust with, you know, some vulnerable kids, I think they're going to have some serious problems on their hands. I don't believe that this case is actually going to be litigated in an open courtroom. I can't imagine St. Anne's is going to want to go that route. My guess is they will look to settle.
Let me follow up on that. First of all, I have to tell you, it's interesting you're saying that. I followed your comments in the criminal case where you basically said there was nothing to do but for him to plead guilty. I mean, he accepted responsibility for this. The evidence was so overwhelming. So, for you to say, it's interesting that, they should have properly vetted him. They didn't. Just to give a little context there. But why do you think this won't see a trial? Wouldn't St. Anne's? I mean, look what they're being accused of. Wouldn't they want to clear their name? A settlement sometimes is viewed by the public as an admission of guilt.
Well, there's certain things that St. Anne's can't deny. They're not going to be able to deny that they knew about Winston's background, because they did. They knew that he had a prior felony conviction and was on probation for larceny. They can't deny those things. They can deny certain other aspects about them perhaps doing nothing once they became aware of some misconduct. But I think the thrust of the suit and the nature of the claim is going to be more about, how could you hire this person, knowing what you knew about him, knowing what you knew about his judgment in a previous issue involving some other vulnerable segments of society? How could you possibly put him in this position with these young children?
Right. Right.
Yes.
Do you think he should be part of this lawsuit, or do you believe
he is part of the lawsuit?
He is part of the lawsuit. But do you think he should be? Because I think you had said before he's got no money.
Well, it would be kind of strange if the plaintiffs sued the school, but not the actual person who caused the harm. And so Winston is named. Winston is a witness. Winston is going to be deposed to give pertinent facts about the hiring process that St. Anne's is probably not going to want to go public. And so, yeah, he'll be a vital cog in this case, but he is essentially penniless. There's no way anybody's going to recover any money from him, but he's an important piece of the puzzle.
100%. It's sometimes very legally important to have him as a defendant. Real quick, before I let you go, he was your client. Did he come off as somebody where you could see, wow, I can see that manipulation, I can see that aspect where he might fool people in a way?
So it's interesting because I've thought about that. And, I've been a criminal lawyer now for, God, over 40 years, 41 years. And Winston was one of the most polite, appreciative, respectful clients that I've had in those years, notwithstanding the crimes that he was charged with and he ultimately pled guilty to. But Winston was one of the nicer guys. And I know it's strange to say that given the nature of the crimes, but as a criminal lawyer,
honestly,
you get to know
I see that a lot. I see that a lot when I cover criminal cases. I'm not too surprised to say that I see that. Listen, Frank Rothman, thank you for coming on. Appreciate your perspective on this. Thank you.
My pleasure. Take care.
And by the way, we reached out to St. Anne's School for comment. Haven't heard back.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.